And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than 5.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than 5 genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than 5 genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
All right, folks. Welcome to Civic Lens. Today we're reacting to a Senate exchange that's been making waves. Senator John Kennedy questioning Ms. Robinson about the difference between sex and gender and the whole issue of fairness in sports. Now, this one got people fired up on both sides, but I'll tell you right now, I think Senator Kennedy handled it exactly how a public servant should: direct, factual, and unafraid to ask the hard questions. See, this isn't about hating anyone or denying anyone's right to exist. It's about common sense, science, and fairness, especially when it comes to women's sports. And you're going to see in this clip how Kennedy tries to get a straight answer on something that should be pretty straightforward. Are there biological differences between men and women, and do they matter in athletics? So we're going to watch this clip, and afterward, I'm going to break down why Senator Kennedy's line of questioning makes perfect sense, and why it's actually dangerous when people in positions of influence refuse to acknowledge basic biological facts. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below. Do you think biology still matters in sports, or should gender identity be the deciding factor? Let's get into it. All right.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions, and this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are 2 sexes, but there can be more than 2 genders?
I wouldn't even say 2, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Explain that. Do you think there are more than 2 sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
3? I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged, but again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
say, what does intersex mean?
Is that there's a difference between sex and gender, and I think in these conversations we're conflating the 2.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than 5.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than 5 genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than 5 genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than 5?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection.
Number?
Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are three sexes: male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And
so
there are an infinite number of genders, because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl, okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real-world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women. And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood is not threatened by a transgender person asserting hers as well.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank all of the persons who are testifying today. For Ms. Robinson,
Let's get into
do you know
it.
what
All right. Wow. Let's talk about that. See, this is exactly what frustrates so many Americans about the current state of our debates. Senator Kennedy was trying to get a simple, honest answer. How many sexes are there? And do males have biological advantages in sports? These are not trick questions. They are scientific, objective realities. And yet, we just watched a witness dance around them like it's a philosophy exam instead of a policy discussion. When Senator Kennedy asked about sex, male, female, and possibly intersex, he was being patient, respectful, and clear. He wasn't mocking anyone. He was simply trying to anchor the conversation in biology. But Ms. Robinson kept deflecting to gender identity, as if those two words, sex and gender, mean the same thing. They don't. Science is clear on this. Sex is biological. It's chromosomes, it's muscle mass, it's bone density. Gender is social, cultural, and personal. The issue here is that policy, especially in sports, has to rely on biology, not feelings. Because the moment we pretend that physical differences don't exist, we destroy fairness for biological women who've worked their entire lives to compete at the top. Kennedy wasn't being cruel. He was being real. He even said, people should live freely. No one should be discriminated against. What you do in your private life is your business. But fairness matters. Rights aren't one-directional. The rights of trans individuals are important, yes, but so are the rights of biological females who deserve a level playing field. And when Ms. Robinson said there could be an infinite number of genders, you could literally see the confusion on Kennedy's face. And honestly, I think a lot of people watching at home felt the same way. Because if gender has no limits, no clear definition, then how can we build laws, rules, or fairness around something that's constantly changing? What Kennedy did here was try to pull the conversation back to reality. He didn't shout. He didn't insult. He asked for definitions, examples, evidence, and when none were given, he calmly pointed out how that weakens credibility. And he's right. You can't talk policy without truth. Look, inclusivity and respect are vital, but they can't come at the expense of truth. Pretending that a biological male doesn't have athletic advantages over a biological female isn't compassion. It's denial. And that denial ends up hurting the very people we claim to protect. So yes, I'm with Senator Kennedy on this one. His questions reflect what most people are thinking but are too afraid to say out loud. He spoke with common sense. He stood up for fairness, and he reminded everyone that biology still matters, even when it's politically inconvenient. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Was Senator Kennedy being fair? Did Ms. Robinson avoid the questions? Or did she make a valid point that people are missing? I want to hear your thoughts. And as always, stay informed, stay respectful, and keep looking through Civic Lens.